Right, let's get started. We got some folks that have places to be, and I know we're very spread out here due to social distancing, kind of doing the best we can. Usually during the workshop, we have a lot more people present at the table than we do at commission meetings, so that's kind of, we're trying to fit everybody in as best we can. So thank you for bearing with us, and those of you that may have a blood sugar level drop, we've got goodies and snacks and Snickers and such to munch on there. So let's just go ahead and get right to it if we can. We know that this budget workshop, or this workshop, is always dedicated solely to the fiscal budget for the next year. And so we'll get right into it. You should have received your copy of the budget as well as my executive summary, which is about 3 pages long. It kind of sets the tone and kind of gives an understanding of some of the mindset we use to start developing and building the budget. So we can see that. So we'll go ahead and advance to the next slide. Property tax this year, we are budgeting, the number you see there. The important thing about property tax is we have budgeted for no growth. We're not going to hedge our bets on growth. And so that's the number that we think we'll get. It might be above that, but we're not exactly sure. Other taxes are $1,049,000. Sales taxes are 2.879. We know that state shared as well as local option consist of our second and third largest revenue. Grant revenue at 348,611. We'll cover that, and of course miscellaneous. So we're projecting an annual budget of $10,608,707, and 1 cent of property tax for us before the reassessment is equal to $33,316. So I'm going to need glasses. I've got to go to the glasses. There's your reading glasses and your working there. I'll look at the thing we got here. So property tax, as I mentioned, we are not going to budget any form of growth into property tax because we want to see how that goes. But even then, it's up $91,000 from last year, but we did not put any growth in on top of that. Our utility tax, we feel that we can keep it about the same, because for the year, we're coming in just a little bit less than what we did. Let's talk about local option sales tax. As you know, that's 2.25% on top of the 7% that's there. We have really struggled with putting in the revenues this year after doing a substantial amount of research on the economy, locally, state funding board, all the various things. And what we think that our local option sales tax, we do not have a lot of sit-down restaurants in our city. We have some, of course, but we don't have a lot of restaurants and bars and things like that would generate a lot of revenue with local option sales tax. Our grocery stores are pretty much solid. We have a Walmart that continues to do well, and like your colors, that looks good. It does pretty well. The Village Market holds up well. We expect that to have a little bit of decrease because of students. But local option sales tax, we decrease that a little bit because we think overall it's probably going to stay pretty solid. We mentioned earlier that a lot of our fast food restaurants, even Chick-fil-A, is doing very well, and I don't even think they've opened up the dining room yet, and their costs are lower. So we're hedging our bets a little bit on local option sales tax. We do hold up pretty well. Mixed drink, we lowered that a little bit. The business tax, we lowered it slightly, but we don't think we're going to see a huge hit on our businesses because with the type of business models we have inside our city specific, even though the majority of that is class 2 and comes in the 4th fiscal quarter of the year, which it's always late to the ball game. We don't usually get that until this time during the budget process. We think it's going to hold up fairly well. The telephone franchise tax, the cable franchise tax, hotel motel, we're going to see a hit on that. Everybody's seeing a hit. Hotel motel tax, building permits, we see an increase on that because we have growth in the city. Economic development fee slightly lower. Our grant revenue, the grant revenue is very specific. We'll cover the details of that as we get down into the budget. Our federal law enforcement grant, our state sales tax. That's where we get in to start saying our state shared revenue. The state legislature, as most of you know, will go back next month to Nashville to try to deal with some adjustments in their budget and what they feel is going to be a substantial hit to the state share, to the state taxes that are coming in. We've knocked that down 20%, and we're pretty comfortable with that. But I want you to remember something. We hope we're wrong. And we're not going to be afraid if we're wrong, because if we're wrong, it'll be better. And if we're wrong worse, then good grief, we don't need to be wrong worse, but I hope it holds up better. But we feel comfortable that that is a fair guesstimation in uncharted territory and unprecedented lack of data and lack of numbers on our state shared revenue. Our state income tax, as we know, we budget $100. This should be the year where we're at 1%. It was phased out from 6% down, so we do not expect a lot of money from hall income tax, and our state beer tax is down as well. Our state gas tax, we're going to see a hit on that. We think that's consistent with the other state shared revenues, as well as the same for the gas inspection fee. Our TVA gross receipts tax, we feel that that will come in because that is pretty much how it goes. The police supplement pay is their training, the coalition. That's the revenue where other cities pay us their share for Bridget. Do you remember, I'm sorry, to remind you of what that is. That's the other city's dedication and their payment back to us to offset the cost of Bridget. The refuse collection contract, as well as the library, if you can believe this is the 5th year, we believe, of the second 5-year contract for the library. So at the end of this fiscal year, we will have operated the library 10 years. Time flies when you're having fun, huh? Court fines and court costs, we left it the same as last year. Interest earnings, we left it the same. And even though we'll have more money in investments, sale of surplus property, we've lowered that down. Insurance reimbursement, that's for when we have damaged vehicles or other things. Insurance comes in due to accounting principles. It's got to come in one place and go out the other place. Donations, we always keep kind of low. We never know what that will be. There is no transfer from fund balance. Last year, we borrowed from fund balance to do several capital projects and capital outlays that we did. We've zeroed that out, as you are aware. Appropriation from the sewer fund is the routine administrative fee that we charge the sewer fund for such. And miscellaneous revenues, we've knocked that down as well. So overall, we have a 9% decrease in our anticipated revenue, which is over $1 million that we feel that we're not going to collect that we had last year. Now remember, a lot of that was transferred from fund balance where we did projects. But still, we've knocked down revenue to the point where we feel that there's not going to be a lot of stuff. You go back up to 33,400, it's a governor's local support grant. Is that the previous slide?
That's the grant revenue right there.
Current revenue?
Before you go to that, let me ask a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When do we begin receiving all of Chick-fil-A's sale tax? Are we still sharing that with Chattanooga?
Yes.
When does that become all ours? Has it been 1 year or 2 years so far into that?
3,
Three, isn't it?
3 or
I
4.
think it's one. You know, I should know the answer to that.
3 years.
I've got so much information going. I think it's closer to 5.
Yeah.
It phases.
It phases in
It
and
phases out. Or
out in
phases
5
whichever way
years.
you want to look at it.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
That includes property tax as well.
Yeah, so
They're both
that maybe in about another 2.5 years, that'll be all ours.
It's basically the end of
It's
Burke's
2.5 years.
was what it
A
was.
little bit past.
Little about, okay,
That's
Okay.
close
I was
enough
thinking
there,
3 years.
okay.
but I can't
I thought
confirm
it
that
was
exactly.
3 years.
Well,
I haven't
it gives
done
me
it,
an
but I
idea.
think that's close.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's an odd number. So.
On the governor's local support grant, if you recall, the governor initially put out to all cities and all counties, all 345 cities, all 95 counties, a level of support from the governor's office that's funded by the legislature to do various projects in their cities or counties. They then turned around and increased that. And so our share right now in the budget is $283,000. Roughly, that we feel that we'll get from the state. We're concerned that we might not see that money. We have met with our state legislators via Zoom meetings, and we have asked them, Mayor Lamb has, as well as the administration, to please not cut state shared revenue to the cities. The state is worried about their revenue, understandably so, due to the local crisis. But if they hold us on state shared revenue, and they have to do some major cuts to their revenue, we seriously wonder, because of the pressures that they are having, if we'll see any of that grant money. We're not the only ones that feel that way. We feel that if the state is in a bind, which we think they're going to be, I think they think they're going to be, if they go in and start cutting that, I think we'll see it cut. We had put that money in paving anyway, because we are so behind on paving due to the presentations you've seen from Eric and Wayne. But at the end of the day, at no fault of the state, we feel that there's a concern that if they have to make cuts to balance and realign their budget, we're not sure we're gonna see that money anyway. So we kind of hedged our bets on that as well.
So do we think that there's any of the COVID money in this budget?
We haven't put any COVID
Will
money
we
in the
be
budget.
getting some from,
We hope so.
we are not reflecting any in here?
No, sir, not as of yet. So we hope we'll get some. We have no idea what that will be. It's way too soon to tell, to even come up with any numbers.
I got the idea that's something they were gonna be working on when they get back into session.
That's correct.
Did you not get that, Bridget, from that discussion? Okay.
So based upon that, that's the revenue forecast, and we pause there and see if you have any questions based upon that. Okay, let's go to expenditures. Planning Department, 252, you see the municipal court, 171, change administration, 641. Municipal building and codes is 513,930. General government, 4,443,000 and change. Police Department, 2,043,000. Public Works, 2,281,000. And Parks and Recreation, 166. Remember, the fire service is under general government because they're a contractor. So that's one of the reasons that number looks so high. So we'll continue on with that. Okay, fees of official planning commission, that's down 600 because we went from 9 planning commission members to 7. And so they get a $300 check during the Christmas season. So that's 2,100 or
600.
2,100 versus 27. Got a text here for a second. Okay, municipal court, you can see the salaries reflected there. Overtime, legal services for the judge, of course, his salary does not change during his 8-year term. We slightly lowered their operating supplies and are basically coming in very similar to the budget that they had last year. No personnel changes, et cetera. Election expense, there's rumor that there's an election this November. And so we better put some money in the budget for that. And that's not every year, of course. So this year we've guesstimated that it's going to be $4,200 for the election of the 3 commission seats that are up in November. Administration salaries, of course, are flat over time as well as everything else. The equipment lease is down slightly because better negotiation with different vendors, such as for copy machines and different types of machines that we use in administration. So the decrease there of $5,570. Planning and economic development, there's a slight decrease there. The reason that salary is down 2%, I believe if my memory serves, is because Robert, before he left, had a special certification. And Kirsten, excuse me, there's a lot of K's here. I don't want to mess up anybody's name. Kirsten does not have that certification. Until she gets that certification, she will not be put at that same salary level. So that's why you see a small decrease in salaries on that. There's a lot of little things like that. So I may get Michelle to refresh my memory on some of the things as we go through some of these small things. But as business lobbying initiative, we continue to have that. It's very important as Kelly goes out and tries to sell the city. Collegedale Tomorrow Foundation, we left that flat. Remember, we give them $75,000 as a payment in lieu of. We own the facility, and many times we are not charged to use the facility because we own it. So when we use it and they don't charge us for it, that prevents them from charging and scheduling somebody else. So we pay them a payment in lieu of taxes, similar to what other people do with us. No change in that. Municipal building and codes. Salaries wise, that down 1%, refresh my memory.
It's down because we're down 1 part-time person.
That's right. We have 1 less part-time person. That's a slight decrease in the salaries.
Goodness.
Janitorial supplies, we continue to have more stuff that goes on with the buildings, utilities. I want to take a moment to brag on Andrew. He's the utility person that beats the heck out of all the other utility vendors and keeps our utilities functioning as optimal as possible. And he always optimizes that as best he can. So Andrew, we appreciate that. Our cell phone, as plans renew and phones get damaged, et cetera, there's always a little bit of an increase in that because Andrew manages that for the entire city. That's why it's in building and maintenance. Inspection code enforcement, we left that the same. He expects a slight decrease in his vehicle fuel, as well as his vehicle parts and repair. is building repair and maintenance. There's a slight increase in that because that's where he takes care of all of the buildings. And of course, last year he had several big capital outlay items budgeted, and they are not in there this year. So an overall decrease of $158,000 change in municipal codes and buildings. Of the general government, the retention and incentive plan is less because we have hired people that have less seniority. Remember, that plan is tied to the level of management as well as the level of seniority you have for the city. So as seniority drops, the plan drops. So it's the reason for that. Benefit and consulting fees, we have the various vendors we have, our health reimbursement arrangement, we've left out there the same. That's where we self-insure in the middle ground for our health plan. Long-term disability, slight decrease there. The medical insurance, we expect a little bit of an increase there, so we budgeted for that. That is always a shot in the dark. We have no idea what they're going to come in with, and we do our best to negotiate it down to the best we can. We're all very familiar with the fact that Blue Cross would not negotiate with us, and we had to change vendors. They have always negotiated, but last year they refused to, and so we made the switch to a different vendor. Retirement is slightly down. That's basically a percentage. Do we happen to know off the top of our head what our percentage of retirement is? It's 13 and change or something?
10 and change for regular employees, 13 and change for police.
That's what I was thinking, because of the
Yeah.
bridge program.
Yeah.
We do the bridge. Okay, unemployment taxes, training and education, we leave that there. Library funding, as of course, a little bit of spending. That's the library contract that we have. It automatically has an increase built in. And I do believe that this is the 5th year of the second 5-year term that'll be coming up for renegotiation in the fiscal 22 budget, I believe. Local option sales tax commission, of course, they charge us a % of the money we get for property tax as well as local option sales tax. The trustee does that at the county, and we pay that because they are allowed to do that by law. Consulting services, there's no change there. City attorney, we left that the same. Postage, we try to keep the line item, hold the line there. As you can see, a lot of this is a hold the line budget, not a lot of changes or there's decreases for the vast majority of the line items. News and memberships, recreation holiday programs, all of it is we're trying to hold the line and not increase as much as possible. Our legal services retainer, of course, that's the retainer. That's mostly used as Sam to come into the various meetings. And when he's at our meetings and then when he does work, he bills us by the hour, except for when he's attending our meetings.
Hey, so can I ask a quick question?
Yes,
On
sir.
the dues and membership,
Yes.
up 5,000, explain that.
Dues and memberships up to 5,000. A lot of that is due to the various programs that people, when they get certifications, building code certifications, different certifications and programs that they have in their various subject matter expertise. They join organizations. They're part of that.
But to go up $5,000 seems awful high.
There's, just for
For 1
instance,
year.
I can just use myself.
Sure.
I am now a member of not only TCMA, but ICMA, because our ICMA conference, which is International City Managers, it was in Nashville. So I became a member of ICMA. So mine went up by hundreds. So if we add, all the different employees, if they just got maybe one more or, it
I'd
adds
like to
up.
see where we're spending the money, to be honest with you. 26,000 or 24,000 seems like a lot of money for dues and memberships.
Okay, sure.
And I don't know,
Yeah.
where do you draw the line? Is it from the key staff up? That's where I thought you would do it. And maybe I should have asked this years ago. And I
That's a
didn't.
good question. I don't think a lot of it is not because, let me use like John, for an example. John's a building code inspector, all the above. We pay for his stuff as well. It's anybody mostly that has professional licenses and certifications and things like that. But we can get that printed off. And give it
Yeah,
to you.
we have a detail of every single one.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I want to be accountable to people on that, something like that.
We'll be happy to get that
Seems like
printed off.
Seems like a lot.
Sure.
There's a yearly fee, is there not, to keep your certification?
There's,
It's all
Yes.
inclusive.
there's some for some memberships and some are, that's why it's called dues and memberships. Sometimes it's just a yearly due. So,
And or membership of a professional organization.
yeah,
Which they do to keep up their fees and to keep up their training standards. For example, Andrew, for refresh my memory, how many hours do you and say, or John have to put in throughout the year to maintain your professional licenses? Ish, just ballpark.
36 CEUs every 3 years, keep our certifications up. And in reference to what you said about membership, we got memberships with Tennessee Association of Floodplain Management, because I'm the floodplain administrator. And having that membership, International Association of Electrical Inspectors and other ones, we get perks from that. We get discounts when we do have to do training. We get like a substantial discount compared to what we have to get outright otherwise. So the benefits far exceed the cost involved.
You get information relative to your industry, correct? Kelly, do you do the same thing? Well, I think you do, but expound on it a little bit.
I do, similar to Andrew, AICP certification, that's the American Institute of Certified Planners. That's a certification that's 36 hours, required every 2 years, including legal and ethics training. And so to keep that up, that's part of this expense. The other one is that personal to me, in my role here, is the International Council of Shopping Centers, which is basically the commercial retail group. That would actually come out of the other budget for the most part of the economic incentives, but it's a similar.
And we get benefits up, some of them, but I think we just need some.
So of
Clarity.
course, we'll get you the list. I think to answer your question, if it's related to your work, we've always paid for it. I think that's the safest thing.
But it
to
sounds
say.
like we continue to add to those. Michelle's got 2 of them. There's 2 or 3 yet. Every employee can't have dues, and I don't know, is it 1 person, 10 people, 20 people? So I just don't know.
We'll check into it. Thank you. We'll get that too.
I think Eric had something to say.
I was just gonna say, all of our licensed sewer operators, they have to get 20 hours per year continuing education credit. Their license renewal comes out of that. It's $100 a year. Each class is about $200 to $250 for a 3-day class. Everyone that has a license has to have one. We have 3 licensed operators now, so that if we have to have people out sick, we have a licensed operator that's working. So we have to, we can't not have it. Our laborers don't have anything like that, but my foreman, my licensed operators, they all have licenses that have continuing education and are members of the associated agencies.
So I guess it's safe to say, Vice Mayor, that if you have a professional designation, we're paying for it. I think that's the simplest way to say it.
So are you paying for all your EMTs, paramedics on the department?
Are we, Brian?
We have paid for some training, but as far as EMTs, since that's not a part of their primary job, then no. But something you said about your EMT license, the fire department has paid for my license in the past because I don't have a job as an EMT.
Yeah.
So a lot of our dues and memberships are kind of like theirs, where they have benefits to it, but also we also are required to have certain certifications and memberships. You kind of, like, for instance, IACP, International Association of Chiefs Police, like $100 and something a year for us. But in turn, the benefits of that is we get a reduction in all of our training classes that we get to go to versus a non-member. And so it readily pays for itself, but like always, you gotta pay for it up front.
Well, the only reason I was asking a question about your officers, and it's emergency services for the most part. I can see paying for them because they're first on scene to a lot of incidents and I'll use the CPR that I was on not too long ago, that one of your officers was first there and did the duties that he should have as the EMT paramedic.
Yeah, so we'll pay for their training. So like Sandy, we sent Sandy to SWAT medic training. Back when Mike was on, we sent him to, because he was no longer with the fire department, but he was working in medical function for the police department. We sent him for that training, but we did not pay for his, national registry or his EMT license for the state. Just like mine, the police department does not pay for mine.
Couple comments. I think we get way more than $2,000 a month benefit from this. And one of the biggest benefits, I think, from my experience in the past is just how it makes the individual feel who has a certification and knows they're keeping up with everybody else in their profession. So those things, to me, are things that we can't afford not to do. Every penny counts. I agree with you, Vice Mayor. But I really do believe that some of these things, the intangibles, are actually more valuable than some of the things that we've already talked about in here.
But then again, perhaps we should have a cutoff at some point, so we'll get.
No, I just think it's nice to know when everything else is flat, 5,000 catches my eyes.
Oh,
So,
we'll get you that list. Hotel motel tax, of course, is down because we lowered that. Computer support, all the other line items are remaining the same, but that credit card fees, that's what we pay people to pay with a credit card. Machines, coffee machine, office supplies, safety, insurance, all the above. Insurance, that's TML, not TML, PEP. That's the public entity partners insurance that we have, all of the different insurances. That's not medical insurance, that's the public entity partners insurance. Used to be TML risk pool, now it's called PEP. So a slight decrease there, but overall, you can see that we're pretty much flatlined back.
Question about Humane Society. Are you past that already? I don't think you've gotten to that, but
I don't think we got there.
no.
it should be on the next.
It should be, yeah.
There you are, 258, Humane Society. Yes,
Do we have any idea how many times we use them a year?
not a lot.
Do they give us a rundown on that, or are we just funding their whatever?
They come and sign our book, just stating that they were in the area patrol or whatever they do. That's pretty much it. And we call them, we don't know how often, I guess, citizens call them.
Right.
But then we call them maybe not very often, a couple times a year.
I have seen them twice in my neighborhood this week, which is highly unusual. And I've been out there 20 years and I've seen them a total of maybe 4 times in 20 years. Twice of that being this week.
Well, we have to have something.
Yeah,
I think we
I
looked at it
agree.
years ago and the cost for us would be outrageous to
Yeah.
do that,
Normal.
so.
Yeah.
There's several things that we participate in that we try to contain the cost as much as possible. But in the end, there's no way we can duplicate that service for what we're paying someone else to do it. 2 examples right off the top of my head are Humane Society. Another one is 911 dispatch. The 150,000-ish, that's just off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and look. But what we pay them, there's no way we can duplicate that service to have our own dispatch center for what we pay them to participate in the dispatch center. And so we're not at their mercy, but we all negotiate as much as we can. But that's a couple examples right off the top of my head that things we have to do, but yet it's cheaper for us to contract it out and participate in the larger plan.
Yeah, it just seems like we don't get much of an ROI on that. But hey, move on.
Right, and to further take that, last year there was discussion about a potential increase in that, pretty substantial, and we've heard nothing back from that. We think that kind of just went away. Some of that we anticipated was some of the folks that put the funding plan together did not fully understand that cities also pay county taxes. They weren't really aware of that, so they thought the county had a tax and then the city had a tax. We're pretty comfortable. Our small city coalition discussed that, correct, Bridget? We're pretty comfortable that the organizers of that funding plan, when they put it out, did not fully realize that every city resident also pays county taxes. And every city pays county taxes as well. So that kind of stopped that dead in its tracks, no pun intended. And so we haven't heard anything back. In fact, they've lost some cities to the McCamey Foundation Center versus the Humane Society Foundation. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, police department, salary, reserve officers, et cetera, there's a slight increase in that. One of the things we're going to do this year, and Michelle, I want you to cover that, is that we're not, we usually have an 80-hour work week. As you all know, police department is paid at a different schedule. So we're going to budget about 60 to 75% of the department at their 91-hour base versus their 80-hour base, and that should account for the increase in the pay. Did I say that right?
You said exactly right. So that's 13 times a year, not 26. So 13 times a year, instead of having 80-hour base, they have a 91-hour base because they're emergency services.
Now, in the past, we've always paid that out in an adjustment at the end of the year.
Yeah.
We'll still have adjustments at the end of the year. We're just trying to put more in the day-to-day budget than we are in an adjustment at the end of the year. Because they're paid differently. They don't get paid directly time and a half over 40 like everybody else in the workforce. They have a different work schedule, different hours, all the above. Training and education, we've dropped that in the police department for Chief, you want to cover some of that, on the decrease in training and education? That's a pretty good lick down.
Basically, some of the things that we dropped off as far as training and education was basically, we looked at a lot of the classes that we've been trying to attend and looked at overall functionality of some of the things that we were doing. And instead of having 4 or 5 people doing the same thing, we dropped that down to just 2 or 3 people, so that they're not operating on different aspects. So obviously, cutting a lot of the classes out and a lot of the travel and trying to do stuff on our own was a reduction in our services, or not services, but
Am I also correct, Chief, in stating that instead of having 3 and 4 officers trained in something, we're comfortable with having 1 or 2 officers trained in something from an instructor standpoint?
that's correct.
That's, so there used to be someone that felt very strongly about having, say, 4 instructors versus 2. And so we've changed that mindset, and we feel comfortable that we can have less instructors in a particular topic, and that's the decrease, justification decrease for that. It's not required, nor is it needed. Decrease in records management fee, you can see the dispatch contract went up by $16,000. The reason that goes up is because our population goes up as well as our call volume goes up. When they send us our bill and send us the plan for the next year, those are the 2 main things they take into consideration. They receive more calls from our city as well as our call volume goes up. That changes the funding formula for the dispatch contract. Chief, SOAR operations, would you cover the $16,000 drop on that, please?
Yes, sir. So basically, one of the things we looked at, as far as what we did last year, what we looked at last year's equipment, most of the education stayed the same, but some of the equipment that we already currently have, some of the things that we have to continue to train on, we kept, and some of the things that we didn't need, we cut out. So that's why there's a drop in that.
Would you also cover K-9?
Yes, sir. So we've had several meetings, and when I say we, command staff at the police department, there is quite a bit of reduction in the K-9 unit, basically because at this point, I'm not really comfortable. We don't have a candidate that we really like at this time to continue the K-9 program. It's not dead in the water. It's something that we're looking at. We're always looking at it. At one time, I'd like to have, K-9 on each shift. But until we get the personnel, and I feel comfortable with that personnel continuing with the program, then we will move forward. There's not a K-9 in this budget simply because we've not selected an individual to continue that program. When we do get to that point, we're going to look at, I know that there are some people locally, when I say locally, in the Hamilton County area that has provided K-9s, and we would go forward and try and collect donations to purchase a dog and handler school and so forth. But like I said, once we feel comfortable, and we've got several people that we're looking at within the police department, but they need time to grow, and they need time to learn to actually be a police officer before they're thrown into a specialty division.
So can I make a couple comments real quick
Yes,
on the
sir.
K-9?
Of
So
course.
3 or 4 years ago, I was a big supporter of it. Y'all asked me to hold off. Then we got a dog. Great. I was very appreciative. I'm just not seeing or hearing a lot of results from our K-9 team. I'm not impressed with it. I like the people that handle them personally, but I just don't see and hear anything, and maybe I'm not seeing reports, which is okay. The thing I want to ask a question of, we made a resolution or whatever it was years ago that if we retired a K-9, that we would pay for that K-9 until it passes away. I'd like for us to see a change to that rule, that if we have a K-9 and it retires because of medical or whatever issues, and the officer is no longer with us, we cease payment. Because I don't think we should pay for a K-9 if an officer is no longer with us.
I think the chief agrees with you on that, and he has discussed something similar
Okay.
to that with me before. And so I think that you will find an agreement on that. I may be wrong, Brian, I don't think so. The $6,500 that's in the budget is not because of our current K-9 program, since we have no officer assigned to K-9. It's the retired dogs, correct?
Yes, sir, it's a continuation, dental work that is continuing, that's about $2,000 for the 2 dogs. Wellness checks.
We don't have a current dog.
Dog food, we still pay for, and, there's a retired canine medical in there, just for that, any extras. But, we have received, bills, from former officer, Corporal Holloway, and, there's, as Cougar gets older, he's going to need more medical attention, and we didn't put a cap on any of that.
Yeah, I think we
just kept
should.
it as an open check, so to speak, and as well as, Officer Desmond's dog, Evo, we still pay for his food, we still pay for any medical bills that come up. And if you remember, both of these dogs were taken out of service because of medical issues. So the continuation of that is probably potentially going to become higher. So I would agree with you 100% that either A, we need to put a cap on that, especially if the dog and the previous handler is with us still, or the canceling any future if the officer's no longer with us.
Let me ask the
Yeah, I think
question.
you need to look at years of service, that what we expect to get out of a K-9 and cap it some way like that.
Obviously that's for y'all, that's what y'all
Yeah.
need to do.
It was.
We didn't put a cap on it at the time. It was really early on into the K-9, when Drake retired. We didn't know what to expect long-term. And, now we've kind of been through that at least once. We're going through it now with 2 additional dogs. I can try to get y'all some numbers to see exactly where we are, in the process of these retired dogs, to see exactly how much we're paying, since they've been retired.
No, I don't really, that will come in your analysis of it at some point, but I just think that at some
I agree
point we
with you.
got to cap it, and then also if the officer leaves, we discontinue paying the retiree benefits for the
We agree, we need
K-9.
to look at the program, I think. Commissioner Baker, you were going to say something?
Yes, I was. I was the first one to bring that up when it first came up. And I understood, and I'll have to go back through my notes, we were going to pay for food because we do consider them as officers and they did us a service. But I understood it was going to be their medical, unless it was related to being injured while performing their duties, that it was going to be just general checkups, shots for the year, is what I understood.
No, ma'am, I think the way, and maybe we do need to go back and look, but it was my understanding that it would be any medical, once the K-9's retired.
Yeah, I think because y'all know how I feel about dogs and things like that. But that my understanding all this time has been that if they were injured due to the line of duty, that, yeah, we would cover the medical because it wasn't the dog's fault. He was performing his duties because he is an officer, But then I understand having a cap on it because I understand that. But I think we need to take into consideration each individual case. If the officer, I think, leaves on their own, they leave period or whatever, or they've not performed their duties right and they're removed from their position, then yeah, I think there is some repercussions there. It's not the dog's fault. But I can see not having to go into thousands and thousands of dollars for a unit, but something that's reasonable, I think would be more appropriate. I don't want to cut the canines out completely.
Yeah, neither do I.
I don't want to do that at all.
Like I
And,
said, we're looking at,
and I thought there was a $3,000 cap on it because for some reason that stuck in my head. For example, if they had to have surgery or something after they retire, there was a maximum that they would go. I'll have to look at my notes.
yeah, we did not put a cap on it. I know that
Okay.
for sure.
I've
Because I
never
still,
heard that. Would you please check your notes? I've never
yeah,
heard that.
I know when I brought it up, because it's been a few years.
Sure.
That's
Just two.
what I understood. That's what I thought I had brought in, but that's fine, because I just don't want to leave them out. Irrelevant of the officer, because the dog can't help who its handler is.
Yeah, this is about the dog.
This is about the dog and the service that they perform us. I think that we, and I would hate to think that a dog got injured in the line of duty and we say, okay, that's it. I don't think that's appropriate for that particular animal when.
Well, and this is not a popular topic too, but everybody has a different opinion of what should or should not be done to an animal who is sick.
Yes,
So
it's a
police
hard
dog or
thing.
not, there are
Yeah.
some people, I had a family member that spent $5,000 on a cat to try to keep the cat alive, and we don't know that there's good judgment there. Everybody
I
has
think
a
quality
different
of life
belief of
has to
what
be.
they
Yeah.
think needs to be invested in an animal versus being put down. I don't think we're there yet of putting
Yeah.
any animal down, but that's the thing. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it has to be like a medical decision, like if the doctor said this dog needs to be put down because of quality of life.
Sure.
I've had to put a few down, which I didn't want to, and I have paid in one incident, $4,000, my dog being put in intensive care because I was in the hospital and my husband didn't want to make the decision. He didn't feel adequate to make that decision, so had to wait to be made after I got out of the hospital.
Sure.
And because they were very willing for me to go up to $25,000, and I said, no, I'm a teacher's salary. I may not put that out on my husband. I shouldn't say that. But the insurance is not going to cover it.
Yeah.
But no, I think we do have to be fair-minded and be diligent. But at the same time, I don't want to just say, that's it.
So we'll look at that. Maybe we need to adjust it and come up with a better plan. We
Yeah.
got the year to do that. The money that's there now is to take care of the existing dogs that are retired. And if we need to change the program throughout the year, we can come up with a new policy and see how we want to do it.
Let me see if I can find it, because I keep everything. Let me see if I can find it, because that's what I understood when I first brought it.
you.
My understanding was that it was for Drake, that we pay for the food and his annual checkups and certain things like that. If he had had surgery, we would pay depending on like I said, the quality of life, but I thought there was a $3,000 cap. That's what
Okay.
I remember discussing. So
See if you can find that. That's great.
I'll see if I can find it. Give me a week or so.
A couple
through
months.
everything.
We got plenty of time. In the meantime, we'll put this money in, if it's okay with you guys, to care for the existing dogs, and we'll look at reformulating the policy. Okay, clothing and uniforms, we see a slight decrease on that, as well as other operating supplies. Those are, Chief, go into the other operating supplies.
Basically, everything we kept, as is. We just had a few things that dropped. One of the things was our miscellaneous travel expenses. We dropped that down because, we're not going to be going to as many classes.
As many people.
I'm sorry.
As many people.
Yes, sir.
Right.
And, that's really the biggest that we dropped.
Rest of them you see are basically the same. You see capital outlay down $392,000. As you are aware, we purchased 8 police vehicles that last year. We're not purchasing any this year or plan to. And so that decreases the police budget by $405,262. Fire protection, you'll see a substantial increase in the fire protection service of $255,000. We usually end up is the fire department contract is about 20% of the property tax revenue. That's reflected in that number. And so we raise property taxes 33%, and that's exactly what you see there that goes to the fire department. That's always 1 year in arrears. So the year that you raise taxes, it doesn't go into next year for the fire department. It's 1 year in arrears as they do the assessed value of the district that they cover. So that is 100% the increase there. Yes, Commissioner White.
Question, when does that agreement expire? Does it get renegotiated, or does it have a term limit with it or anything like that?
No, sir, it's just ongoing in perpetuity until either party changes it,
Okay.
to the best of my knowledge.
Okay.
And, if there is a term, I am not aware.
I was just curious about it.
Yes.
I knew that was the policy. I just didn't know if we would have a chance to renegotiate that, or if we needed to give more money, or, different things like that, so.
Excellent point. I think it's probably appropriate for me to add to that, based on your question, is with several of us background in the room here for what we are paying the fire department, not defending it, but being factual, what we're paying the fire department if we were to have our own fire department based upon the resources that come in on first alarm. You used to be a part of the department as well, so you have some subject matter expertise there. It would be much more expensive.
Oh, no, I agree. I just didn't know. I mean, I know that, some of their equipment's older and didn't know
Right.
if we're contributing the right amount, because, that was negotiated in years past, and was just curious if that's something.
So what we
that
do
happens,
is
or-
we give them the money based upon what we just talked about, and how they manage it is up to
Right.
them, as long as they're providing adequate service and keep an appropriate ISO grade.
Because we didn't raise taxes for how many, 10 years, and so they didn't get a pay rate, or they didn't get an increase because it's based off of the percentage of our raising taxes. So I just curious to make sure they're being taken
Yeah.
care of for the jobs that they're doing
And,
for
and
us.
let me one finer point to that. They do get an increase based upon the assessed value of the area. Example, the reason there's 1 year in arrears is they look at the assessed value of the district, the area.
Mhm.
And then they take that assessed value, put it in a formula, and it spits out to be about 20% of property tax. So they do get an increase if the value of the district goes up.
Okay.
They got this massive increase because we raised taxes.
Right, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Next topic, I believe, is Public Works. Salaries, we can see that there's a slight decrease there for various people changed out. I believe, is this one where the engineering was? The
No.
part-time employee?
No, it's
What's the
not.
reason for that?
It's just different employees with different tenures.
Okay,
Like an employee replaced another with less money
due to experience.
from 1 year to the next.
Yeah, because we have Public Works 1 and Public Works 2, all the above, so there's a slight decrease there, okay. Clothing uniforms is slightly up, landscaping supplies slightly up, operating supplies slightly down. Vehicle fuel, once again, 1451 increase. Vehicle parts and repairs, those mechanics do wonders with the money that they get, would you not agree, Eric? Keeping the fleet going. ADA repairs, let's talk about that. We are required by law to begin migrating the city toward Americans with Disability Act repairs on everything from buildings to sidewalks and things like that. So one of the things, correct me if I'm wrong, weigh in there, one of the things that they look for is that do we actually have money budgeted in a line item to show that we've taken the ADA transitions seriously? Did I say that correct? So they want to look at our budget and see that we're putting money in our budget that we will work gradually. There's no time frame that I'm aware of, but that there is money budgeted to be able to do gradual ADA transition and repairs in our city budget. That is why there's a brand new line item in the Public Works budget for that. And that's a TDOT requirement, correct?
Correct, federal highways, and that number is generally 3% of your maintenance. And what we've determined as maintenance is basically street resurfacing. Sidewalks go hand in hand with the streets. We use that as a lot of our road repairs, so that's what we're calling our maintenance. So it's 3% of paving is what we're putting into ADA sidewalk work.
Other items, you can see there's no repair. We go to paving. I think that starts on the next line. We have upped the paving budget by the exact amount of the governor's local grant to local governments. we are due to get, currently under the figure, is $283,611. So we could put that in paving. We all know that we're desperately, everybody, I don't know of a single city or county that doesn't have enough paving money. We've added that to the paving budget. We didn't change the paving budget, we just added that to that budget. If we find that this money does not show up, then we know quickly where it's at, we just blip it off, and we continue to do the process with paving budget. So that's the reason for that. It'd be nice if we see that money, but I'm concerned as the state wrestles with their budget woes that we may not see that money. Let's hope for the best. Capital outlay, we did a lot of capital outlay, as you are aware, in last year's budget. Yes, the Prospect Church Road project is on. Yes, it's all that. It's in the current budget that we're in. And any money spent on that will be adjusted and put back in the budget. But as far as capital outlay goes, we have knocked that down. With all budgets for capital outlay projects are delayed, on pause, until we can see what the revenues will be. Parks and Recreation, same process. We went through that. The salary increase, that was a budget error. Explain that one off the spreadsheet, Michelle. There's not a 2% increase, but there was a budget error.
Yeah, everyone's salary is the same. It's just, we have probably 20 spreadsheets that all link for this budget. So the one spreadsheet linked up to the wrong name and put in like a public works guy for Andy. So it gave him a little less money last year. So this is actually the correct
Is there both
amount.
named Michael or something like that?
Yes, it's Michael Andy. Yes,
So that was a mistake. There is no increase in salary. It's just that was a mistake.
it should
that
be
we-
correct this year.
that we caught, and that reflects that increase. The Cause and Recreation Program, we leave that the same. The Parks and Recreation Foundation, funding for that, we leave, of course, that the same. We did a slight reduction in recreation and holiday programs for Tracy's group, equipment and supplies. We left it the same. She's doing a fantastic job with the resources that we are giving her. Operating supplies, a slight decrease there. Fuel, as you know, she has vehicles assigned to her now, so she has a fuel budget, as well as vehicle parts and repair to fix those vehicles that are assigned to her. And then any other repair and maintenance fee of her equipment that she has, a slight increase in her budget to work that, and that reflects fixing the salary. That was the spreadsheet drag over error is what I call it. So more than likely, it's pretty much a flat budget, just like all the rest of the budget.
May I ask a question, please?
Yes, ma'am.
On the equipment and supplies, this is things that she's currently needing and so forth. It's not adding for, like I had mentioned before, any type of new equipment or a particular piece of equipment for the playground. Do you remember I spoke with you? I came to and said that maybe we need to add in a piece of equipment I'd like to add, or if the city
Yeah, that
would
would come out of this budget.
come out of this?
Yes.
Okay.
If we need to add something to the playground, that's correct. Waste collection and disposal, you can see all the way down to landfill services, our tonnage is going up, therefore 5% increase, is that correct, Eric?
Yeah, so we have a 3% increase written in the contract, and we're seeing just an increase in tonnage as well, so we're getting 5%.
More stuff. Whereas recycle garbage carts, we're holding the line on garbage carts. We buy 15,000 garbage carts every year. Eric, I got so many numbers in my head. How many garbage carts is that approximately? Just ballpark, best guess. 1.6 million, just kidding.
About 250.
So we buy about 250 carts every year. That gives us a little bit of stock in case more subdivisions or anybody else comes online. And let's not forget that X amount get broken every year. They get hit by cars, people break them. Stuff happens all the time. And so that's to replace the damaged carts as well as keep a reasonable stock of new carts. Like we got a subdivision coming online down here on the Oringo Road. We should have enough carts to take care of that subdivision because we buy a little bit and have a stock every year. Okay, less capital outlay. We have no capital outlay budgeted there, so there was about a $10,500-ish decrease in waste collection and disposal. Debt service and interest payment. This is the third year of our 12-year capital outlay note, so there's a slight increase in interest payment there. as well as a slight decrease in the principal. So this year, there's a 15% increase because of interest for the debt of 582. I was looking at some numbers the other day. Next year, as the ERA fund, the American Recovery Reinvestment Act capital outlay note supported by a bond is retired and goes away, I think our debt service next year will drop to under $500,000, which is still around 4.5% of our total revenue. So our debt to income ratio, as they say in the banking world, is outstanding. About 4% of our revenue goes to pay for debt. Excellent. Technology fund overview, we have to have one of those. We put just a little bit of money in there as well. I believe that's connected to court, correct?
It is.
Yes, so that's there. Revenues and expenditures for the sewer fund, moving right along. Transfer from the fund balance is to shore up for the projects and the stuff that we got. That we're doing is 97,800. Sewer service charges dropping. Now, why would you say that's dropped? WWTA during this current budget year will be moving out of our pump station and will be pumping their main force line direct to Chattanooga and will bypass our pump station per our agreement. So that's the reason for the decrease in sewer charges. Sewer tap fees, we anticipate to still be about 10,000. Debt service from WWTA, there are two very small loans that will be retired in fiscal budget year 2022. Off the top of my head.
Is the sewer tap fees, is that new?
No.
Or is that, what is that?
No, our sewer tap fees, they've stayed the same. We did do an adjustment, 6 months ago, depending on the size of the subdivision that comes online.
Yeah.
And there's a certain rate for the developer that puts the subdivision in because he actually installed the sewers and now he sells this lot to somebody else. There's consideration for that. But yeah, we've adjusted them to make them very competitive with what WWTA and Chattanooga is, and it reflects the size of the subdivision that's coming.
I just want to make sure it wasn't the new Barnsley subdivision excluded them or something. It does exclude them because the developer pays for that, for the
Yeah,
building.
we adjusted this rate to reflect that development coming online and making it a lot more reasonable.
They still have to pay a fee.
Yeah, they still have to pay a fee.
Yeah, every month.
And to connect as well. Like I said, the 26,961, that's two small loans that are due to retire, for our past project that will retire with the WWTA in fiscal year 2022. I believe one actually retires in July of the 22 budget, and the other one retires in the month of January in the 22 budget. I was looking at debt service the other day and remember that. So overall decrease in the sewer budget for revenues is $790,000, primarily due to the fact that we will not be charging the WWTA to go through our system. Salaries are 11% decrease on salaries in sewer enterprise fund. That's due to certifications. We also do not have a part-time employee. Is the reason for that. That is a decrease actually in staff, so there's a decrease there. Retention and incentive plan, of course, because it's an enterprise fund, they have that separately budgeted. The utility increase is what it takes to pump all the stuff that we do with our pumps, multiple pump stations. Maintenance and repairs up about 11%. We've been having a lot of stuff that breaks, and so we have to obviously get it fixed. Decrease in capital outlay. There is a capital outlay program this year. As I put in my executive summary, we plan to do the best we can to replace our force main. That flows over 2 million gallons a day of sewage that goes to Chattanooga to be filtered and taken care of. We do not need to have that force main malfunction before we can get it upgraded and repaired. It's at the end of its useful life. Because the pump station itself continue to operate with $363,000, therefore the expenses are down $181,405. Disposal and treatment is down as well because, once again, we're having to pay less because it's down. Administration of sewer enterprise fund expenses, you can see pretty much it's a flat line budget. We have some decreases in debt service interest as far as how we're paying the bills for that and the principal. Transfer to fund balance, we always is there because that's the administration of the sewer fund. It's to help offset the cost of administration to do that. So a slight decrease in sewer fund expenses from an administration standpoint. Revenue for overall for the sewer enterprise fund, we feel it'll be about $4.5 million. We have about $4.2 million budgeted for expenditures. And so we are anticipating an approximate profit of the sewer fund of $254,000. Remember, our enterprise funds get called in to do depreciation. So depreciation is going to eat into some of that, just like it does with the airport. So the profit is not the profit, so to speak, as I love to say. Airport Enterprise Fund, moving along, there's the grant revenue. We have some grant monies coming in because this is the year we have to repair our failing culvert, our pipe or creek underneath our current runway. We have to do that first. We have plans in the future to do a lighting project upgrade, but even TDOT doesn't want us to do the project lighting upgrade until we trim some trees and get some other hazards around. So we'll have a step process that we're going through that they want us to take care of some things with. Sale of aviation fuel, if there's one thing we learned during economic recessions is that it shows up almost first at the airport. We learned that from the 08-09 economic recession that we had. I don't know how to really say that, Chris, other than the fact that people may not be able to afford to fly their plane as much.
In what possibly COVID impact might be to our future economy, we have no indication that it's going to negatively affect general aviation in the same way that it's affecting the airline businesses. So, you can social distance in your own airplane when you're by yourself, but you can't do it in an airline. So, that's kind of a best guess here, trying to be conservative with those numbers.
But we're hedging our bets.
About 30% decrease from this year's sales.
So we'll plan that into next year's budget. Okay, sale of oil, same thing. American Airport Enterprise Fund expenses, you can see the salaries are, of course, this remain the same. Long-term disability, insurance adjustments that we get little different insurance fees that pop in, medical insurance as well. Retirement, all of those down to the same line. We have a little bit of an increase in utility costs that we have anticipated at the airport that Chris has budgeted in appropriately. Telephone. Chris, you found something that was an error out there that caused a 32% increase in the telephone budget.
With our new home systems that we did, the charges have changed a little bit. That's when we did a full upgrade for all of the phone systems throughout the city.
With EPB?
This is, yes.
Yes.
And that's part of this.
So what, do you remember what we found that caused us to do a 32% increase in that line item of the budget?
It used to be that we had, with our old phone system, there were just 2 lines coming into the airport. But now my office has its own line, the assistant director has his own line, and then the other lines that were already in the airport are still there.
So actually you have enough phone lines, whereas before you didn't.
You just rolled over to different phones, whereas now it's an individual line.
Okay, thanks. All the way down, there's no increases in the budget, slight increase in the jet fuel, and obviously there's the decrease in the purchasing for the fund and the revenues versus the expenses for the sale of avgas that we're anticipating to go down. Once again, this culvert project is a 95-5 grant, which means 95% of the money is from the state, 5% of the money is from us. Those are always good deals when we can get a 90-10, 95-5, even an 80-20 on some of the projects that we do with TDOT. And so those are great there. The capital outlay is down $38,000. Last year, if my memory serves, we bought a hangar. Is that correct? We bought out a hangar that provided us real estate, which in turn provides us revenue, which makes our numbers look a whole lot better because we pretty much live and die on revenue out there based upon our real estate, and the level of profitability is based upon fuel sales or not. So revenues for the airport, $674,787. Expenses are guesstimated at $576,168 for a surplus of $98,619. As you learned last year when we get our audit report, it's always a little bit frustrating because we will not overspend the money we bring in from the airport, but we still could not be profitable based upon depreciation. It's just the way it is. It's hard to overcome. Yes, sir.
Question, you just going off what you said, when we bought that hangar last year,
Yes.
I noticed that the hangar revenues, for rentals didn't go up. Is that because the current tenants haven't moved out?
It's
Or-
because we have increased real estate for rent.
Well, in that, the revenue increase from the hangar lot was in last year.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That's why I was asking for the clarification. Cool.
Absolutely. That provides the far and away the majority of our revenue at
Yeah.
the airport is the rent on the real estate. I call it the real estate. I mean, you're in that business, obviously, Commissioner White, but I call the hangars the real estate because that's the bulk of the revenue for the airport. If we did not have the rentals, for the hangars, we wouldn't have an airport.
Yeah.
There's no way to say it. We wouldn't have an airport. Drug fund, have to have that. So we put a little bit of money in, a little bit of money out. Those are obviously guesstimations based upon throughout the year. Could be a whole lot more, a whole lot less. Is how that pretty much works. Pause there. That's a quick run through the various problems of the budget. Key staff, have any other further comments that you need to add to the commissioners or anything like that? Rick, everything? We pause there and entertain questions from the commissioners.
I have to run, so I apologize if I can speak first. Nice budget. I appreciate being thoughtful and going through the process.
Thank you, sir.
I think now my memory is coming back about the question I had about the,
Dues and subscriptions.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
I remember that from 2 years ago, and I don't need the reporting more like that. I remember, I was thinking it was upper management, but it is,
It's
for
everybody.
other people as well. So I'm good with that, but I think this was a well thought out. I'd like to see the discussion about the K-9. And if we're not reimbursing our officers for their EMT certification, because it is critical for them to be out on the front line, I would like for us to look at that. It's not a lot of money, but
The chief and I had discussed that at a high level view before. We hadn't got into the details talking about that. So perhaps it is time to come up with a more stable platform on how we're going to pay for that. And so we'll.
and most people can get it free, some continuing ed, or
Yeah.
like we were going to a 2-day event, it was $125.
Mhm.
I can get that. It is money, but again, the value of it, being there on the front line before EMS gets there, because that's what happens for our city. So
We tried at one time to put everybody through first responder class, but because it's over such a long period of time and so forth, we sent 4 people through. It just didn't really work out as well as we thought it was going to
Yeah.
in the end. But
if we can reimburse for their schooling for that, the people who are already certified, I'd hate
Sure.
for them to lose it, but.
That's good. And like with Ashland, Ashland has our CMFO designation. That's a professional designation. The state requires us to have CMFOs. So we pay for her designation. We pay for her training. That is all part of dues and subscriptions. So thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it. All right. Any other questions, from members of the commission? Mayor,
No,
anybody?
I just think you guys have worked really hard, you guys and gals, and I just appreciate it.
Welcome.
And I had something else I was gonna say, but I'll hold off on that till next Monday.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Commissioner Garber, you had your hand raised? I thought you did.
Good job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, enjoyed the presentation and what everybody's done to make this thing work. I think we get an awful lot of return on our investment as a community on on our taxes that we bring in. So there's other comments going to come later, or are we through with the whole thing?
We're through the presentation, entertaining questions from the commission.
Okay. What's about some other things I might make a little comment about?
Please do.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes, sir.
It's good to see the paving going down. I've had a couple people say, hey, it's good to see our tax increase going for something. So when they see something, they drive on it, they see it. Whoa, dude. They're very happy about that. So I just, I don't know when it'll get taken care of, finished, but it's nice to see those long stretches of paving going on. And just out of the blue, I get phone calls all the time about the park, the vet park. And within 15 minutes after the flag went up yesterday or Monday to full staff, I got some calls and texts. And so it's fun to find out that by order, the staff flag supposed to be at half-staff until noon for the people who died. And from noon, it goes all the way up to full staff for the people who are still living and serve. So it's really nice to be aware of that. If someone asks you, because there are people in this community who like to find all kinds of fault with our flag system out there.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
So
They
that
wear
was,
us out about it, as a matter of fact.
it was nice to know the reality of that. If some of you didn't know, it was good for me to learn that. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Eric, not to put you on the spot, but we're starting to get a lot more calls in about the playground being open. We know that our playground here at City Hall is certainly still closed because it has tornado damage. Do we have any guesstimation of when that damage would be repaired?
So the plan is, weather depending, if we cannot get the rainfall the next day or so, Thursday, we'll excavate the mulch mud combination that's in the playground and replace it and hopefully have it open for this weekend. That's the plan.
Are we able to open the playgrounds right now due to the governor's orders?
I don't know.
People have them all.
We have so many gubernatorial orders coming out.
I'm not sure that, I don't think
I
they're,
haven't seen anything opening up yet.
I don't think we
That's
have.
why it's
I
not
don't-
been a
I don't
high
think
priority,
that's-
and I haven't pushed it. We've been waiting
I
till
don't
it's
think
dry,
so.
so we don't tear any of the grass up.
Yeah.
We
We are going to open the pavilions because we've opened these rooms for rent now. And so that's part of the rental process. What was that, June 1st? June 1st. We're going to do that. But not the playgrounds yet because we're still waiting on repairs. And Tracy, you want to chime in on that? Did that affect your area too? Yeah.
Just decided today.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen anything of that. I'm just making sure.
I don't think it's been, they've been open yet.
38, executive order 38 did not specify playgrounds at all.
Uh-uh.
So we're still waiting to open based upon the governor's rules.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of mixed information on outside, all that kind of stuff. So it's up to y'all what you decide as far as opening it. Hopefully, weather dependent, it will be damage repaired to be able to be open whenever y'all decide.
That's great. Well, it'll be the governor that does that. We're under his rules right now. Commissioner Garber, you had your hand back up.
Yeah, real quick, y'all remind me, I guess the Fuller Room is now available. That's the 1st of
June
June
1st.
for like the VFW and so on?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Kiwanis, all the above. We're starting to get back.
Wonderful.
You know, the governor keeps raising the numbers of including social distancing of the crowds that can gather.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Commissioner Baker, anything?
No, you pretty much covered everything. Bouncing off, I appreciate everything everyone's done. I was concerned about the Parks and Recreation, that was answered, you asked that, and that was answered. So I have nothing more to
If we
explain.
buy new stuff to put in the playgrounds, that comes from Tracy.
I'm looking at one piece. I like to look at things that are more universal, that are for disabled and non-disabled.
Sure.
That way we are within state guidelines. We don't have to worry about being sued.
Sure. Well, please review that with Tracy.
I will.
And make sure she understands what you're looking at, things like that. We can go from there. Commissioner White.
The only thing left on my, that popped up was you had mentioned that some cities have switched from the Humane Society to McCamey. Have we looked at any cost efficiencies to go to McCamey?
We have not. I think it's safe to say that the one city that did switch to McCamey, they were driving through that city all the time
Alright.
anyway. It was Red Bank,
Okay.
which is completely surrounded
Yeah.
by Chattanooga.
Yeah.
And I believe Red Bank went with McCamey because they're in the city constantly anyway, driving through Red Bank to other areas of Chattanooga.
And McCamey's closer.
That was the second thing I was going to bring up. They're much closer than the Humane Society.
Gotcha. Okay, no problem.
So I do not think that there would be any level of cost savings involved going from the Humane Society to McCamey for us. The concern in the past was when the Humane Society initially came out with that large increase for
Yeah.
a lot of the cities, that a lot of people were taken back by that. I mean, we really were. I mean, it was at some point hundreds of thousands of dollars that increased to some cities. And we're like, whoa, wait a minute. And then they pulled that back. They retracted it. And we haven't heard anything since.
Yeah.
Bridget, do you actually have any news on that? I mean, as far as I know, it's been retracted for well over a year.
They don't want to build it.
Yeah, that just kind of went away. It's one of those things that went away.
Well, there we go.
Okay, Mary Lynn, anything else?
The latest one from the governor's office is playgrounds, ball fields and so forth should still be closed.
Okay, there we are. There's the answer. Okay,
No, I just appreciate all you guys so much. I get so many compliments on the city. I appreciate it.
yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you to the staff. Wade, we always love to pick on you. Every time you open your mouth, it's $1.5 million. So you got anything to add? All right, you got your mask on, we're good to go. We love to kid with Wade about that. Good. Any other comments from the key staff before we adjourn? Bridget, do you have anything? Oh, Eric,
I
sorry.
have one. Public Works, which the 410s has been great. Granted, with tornadoes and everything, we've been working quite a bit on Fridays and so on. But other than that, the transition was seamless. We didn't have a single phone call about a missed garbage can when we switched Fridays right up to Tuesdays, which I was anticipating at least 20 or 30. But
That's saying something.
it worked out really well.
Good.
Wednesday's still the makeup day for all of the routes in the city, is that correct?
So Monday's route will be Wednesday.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish we could somehow get the city a better attuned to, not put it out on Monday, wait till Wednesday, but you know, it's hard to get that done.
They
You know,
don't,
habit's a habit.
they don't read signs. And they've lived here forever and ever and ever, and they should know that by now.
Staff members, thank you. Kelly?
Just wanted to make everybody aware that we've had a soft rollout of the new website.
Yes.
When I say soft rollout, that's to kind of catch internally and then externally, we call it anything that's missing, it's not working, but we've gone over it fairly extensively, but if there's still something out there now, it's time to catch it, it can be corrected much easier than the old webpage, so just want to make everybody aware of that.
So the point is go to the website.
Go to the website, it looks, it's much improved, we've got a lot of good feedback on this.
The website, check it out. It's new. It's got a lot of new content, new different things, bells and whistles, whatever. And Bridget and Tom and Kelly worked very hard on that. Thank you very much for doing that. And so we go from there. Anything else for the good of the order? Ashlyn, thank you for the job that you do. A lot of work in on this budget. Michelle, thank you very much. Yes, Bridget?
The House and the Senate started meeting today. The House, they're going to be there for about a month, is what they expect. The House is taking it business as usual with over 300 bills they're trying to get through. The Senate is only bringing in 34 bills that are focused on COVID-19 and the budget. I think this is interesting since Democrats are trying to call for the Holocaust on that. So we'll see where that goes. There are two online conferences this week or on webinars that you might be interested in. I think Maryland sent one. The Tennessee State Planning Board is having one tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central Time online. And then on Thursday, the Senate Finance Ways and Means Committee is having a hearing with Commissioner Butch Ely. He's the Finance Administration guru that's going to be speaking at 1 o'clock about giving an update on COVID-19 federal funding. So I'll be watching both of those, and if you want this email address, I'll be sure to give it to Ted and to Maryland both.
Thank you, Bridget. Appreciate that update. Anything else? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
I'm gonna steal some Snickers, because I have kids, actually, at my door every night, give me a little picture, wanting pink, and I'm not pink. Someone steals it. I'll replace it. I'm gonna take one to